So check it out. I am making a blueberry chocolate sourdough noir bowl or artisan loaf. That's kind of round. I finally got a little bit better at making my dough because my starter has been good and healthy and strong enough. Let me focus on the bread, the dough. Okay, so as you can see, it's a dark bread. Apparently it comes out looking kind of like that, real dark, right? It has 150 grams of sourdough starter, 360 grams of water, 50 grams of sugar. I use the keto sugar, which is a monk fruit, is what I use, a substitute. A teaspoon of vanilla extract, 4 cups or 500 grams. I should have used American measurements for you guys also. 2/3 of a cup of sourdough starter, which is 150 grams. 1.5 cups of spring water, which is 360 grams. 1/4 cup of alternative sugar, which I use monk fruit, which is 50 grams. A teaspoon, which is 5 grams of vanilla. 4 cups of flour, 500 grams. Then it has, the reason why it's so dark, it's got cocoa in it, vanilla as well. It has 1/2 cup or 50 grams of organic cocoa. 1 3/4 teaspoons, which is 10 grams of salt. And then it has a cup. It says a scant cup of chocolate chips, which is 150 grams. So you should be able to see them in there, right? Like right there, those are chocolate chips. And it has blueberries, a cup of blueberries. So what you do is you mix the starter water, sugar, and vanilla, right? You mix that first. Then you, in a separate bowl, you whisk together the bread flour and the cocoa powder, because you have to mix your starter. And the starter is real sort of like gooey when you first take it out of your jar after it's active and it's risen, it's at its peak. When you mix that together, the bread flour and cocoa powder, and you add it to the wet side of the mix, which is the starter water, sugar, and vanilla. You cover it. It's called an autolyse. That's when it rests, right? After that, you add the salt, blueberries, and chocolate chips. And you have to basically kind of do coil folds with this. But as you can see, these are still on the surface. So when you bake it, you want to try to hide it when you shape it. This is what I'm going to do right now. I'm going to laminate it and shape it. They tell you to put some oil on your board, which I did. And I'm going to take some of this oil. I hear my dog fighting for food. Hang on one second. Stop it. That's his bowl, not yours. Barking at him for. Yeah, my dogs fight, right? Dog fight. Okay, so now what I'm going to do, I got a little bit of oil in my hands. Yeah, it does look like a giant cookie, but it's not. This is the descriptions on the live stream. I can't remember. It's a blueberry chocolate sourdough noir loaf of bread. So now what I'm going to do, I'm going to stretch it out. They call that laminate, basically, or pre-shape. It doesn't feel like regular sourdough because most regular sourdough bread, all it has in it is bread flour, salt, and water. That's it. This has other ingredients, like sugar, vanilla. So it's a little different. So when you stretch it out, what that does is it gives the dough some tension. They call it tension, right? You don't want it to tear, but you do want to stretch it as much as you can. A typical sourdough will stretch like crazy, okay? So all you're doing is stretching it to give it some tension. This is a lot less stickier. I want to say it's probably because the hydration is much lower. what your hydration is your ratio of water to flour in your recipe. And you have to also remember that your starter that you use is half flour and half water. So people think they have less water, they can forget to factor in that. Okay, so now what we're going to do is just fold it in on itself, right? Fold it however you want. Then you're going to roll it. And now, after you roll it, it says you can use your hands and a bench scraper. I do have a bench scraper, but I don't need one with this. This is normally, it's like a lifesaver when you make regular sourdough. So after I fold it, I rolled it, right? Like they describe it like a jelly roll, sort of, basically, but I folded it first. You can see it's getting bubbles in it. So now what I'm going to do, I can roll it again. I can pick it up because it's very easy to handle. I'll roll it again, right? And what that does when you do that, it creates tension in the dough, which means it makes it tighter. And the tighter it is, without tearing, you don't want it too tight. Sourdough bread has bubbles in it, right? That's why a lot of times when you see it being made, it's got bubbles. When you put that in the Dutch oven to cook it, some people don't use Dutch ovens, they have open bakes. That's what causes it to rise or spring. Okay, so now that I rolled it, now what I'm going to do is I'm going to turn it and build some more tension. So like you do like quarter turns, right? Now that might have been less than a quarter. That's okay. So as you pull it, it's similar to putting on a drum cover. I would describe it as like a shirt, right? When you put a shirt on, you pull it over your head. And sometimes, especially with hoodies, how it's really tight when it goes over your head. So as you pull this dough to you, right, and you're making those quarter turns, it's going to get tighter. They call that surface tension. Woo. One thing that I've found in making sourdough is sourdough bread makers, a lot of them are really bougie, so they like using all the fancy terms, they got fancy tools, but then also you can find a lot of regular, normal, everyday people, I would say, right, that they don't have like $1 million homes, $20,000 kitchens, all the fancy baking equipment. Believe me, it'd be nice to have if you had it, right? But not everybody has that. So this is all you do. You're pulling it and turning it, right? And tucking it under itself. And it's going to make that ball shape. They call it a boule. I don't know why they call it a boule. But that's another thing about sourdough terminology. So once you do this, right, which I've done, they tell you that they want you to try to get the blueberries and the chocolate chips inside the dough underneath the skin, because it is going to, like, it's going to burn when it's in the Dutch oven, right? Okay, so I got this all ready. The thing about sourdough is it takes a long time to make it. They do have some recipes where everything goes really fast. You know, they'll call it same day sourdough recipe. So I got this nice and tight, and I have my basket, my proofing basket, which is another thing. It's called a banneton. What you do before you put your bread in is you lightly flour it with rice flour, not regular flour. Because regular flour, when you make your bread, it feeds it. That's what it grows on and bubbles up from. So you don't want to use that flour, because it's going to cause your bread to start trying to ferment again, right? And that might mess it up. The thing about sourdough is I would follow the recipe, and then you have to learn for yourself how it works for you and how it works in your house. So you set it in the bottom, right? Set it in there. then you can stitch it together to make it stay tight. That's gonna give it even more tension. I've never been good at this stitching part, right? So it is what it is. But like I said, this dough is totally different than a regular sourdough. Except if you pinch it together, it's supposed to stay. Kind of reminds me of the giant dumpling, you know, or pot sticker when you do this to it. So we're good there. Tight. Blueberry's bright. You can sprinkle a little flour on if you want, but the directions tell you that once you're done doing that, you put it in a proofing basket and you let it rise for another 45 minutes to an hour. So the waiting is the hardest part when you make bread like this. So that's it for now. I'm going to wash my hands before I put my cover on this and let it rest. Hopefully, maybe, well, I'm not going to come back and bake it because I don't know how to make videos like that yet. So thanks for watching, you guys. Have a great night. Let's see, Claire, hey. Salt, blueberry, and hide it in oil. Yeah, there you go. Not regular sourdough. No, it's not a typical artisan sourdough. That's just straight sourdough. Okay, so have a nice night. Thanks for commenting. Take care.